Parallelism is the idea that when you have a list, everything in the list needs to be of a consistent form. In this case, we have two adjectives, rigorous and a challenge, both describing the course. Notice how I have a before challenge, but not before rigorous. So my adjectives are in different form. I could fix that by getting rid of the a and changing challenge to challenging, or I could have added an a right before rigorous and changed it to rigor. So the course would be both a rigor and a challenge. It doesn't matter which option I choose as long as my adjective forms are consistent. The same rule applies when you have a list of verbs. In this case, we have the president, and he's going to discuss ways to help, protect, and then to advance. Notice how the to is in front of advance and to help, but not in front of protect. The rule is that when you're making a list, every item in the list needs to be able to take the first position without making the sentence sound awkward. The trick is to discover where the list begins. In this case, the first item in my list is to help. My second item does not have the to, so that means my list began immediately after the first two. And you could see that if I took the second item, protect, and put that in the first position, and read, the president will discuss ways to protect, that sounds fine. But when I take the item in the third position, in this case, to advance, and then move that to the front of the list, then the sentence reads, the president will discuss ways to advance. In other words, there's two twos, or one too many to. And the simple fix is obviously to get rid of the extra to. Now, if I put advanced in the same position as help, the sentence would read fine. The longer the sentence is, the more difficult it is to spot problems with parallelism. But we can use the same trick of putting every item in the list in the first position to see if it makes sense. In this case, the Academy is urging the nation to improve, assemble, and then it says creating. If I say the phrase urge the nation to assemble, that sounds fine. No problems there. But if I say the phrase urge the nation to creating, it's clear that the ing should be taken off, and I should use the verb create. The way it reads now with the ing, remember that comma ing actually modifies the verb that came before it. So in this case, that's urged. So the way that the sentence is written originally, it makes it sound like the simple urging of the nation created a special task. If, however, the last part of the sentence had read something like creating a sense of panic, that potentially could make sense, because the National Academy of Science could urge the nation to improve security protocols and assemble specialized response teams, and the mere urging would cause a sense of panic. But in this case, the urging is not going to create a special task force. So the best option is to change creating simply to create. When you're making a list, you also want to make sure that the pattern of nouns and verbs and adjectives remains consistent. So in this case, we make a short list and we start off with unruly students. Unruly, that's an adjective, and students are obviously nouns. The next item is demanding parents. Demanding, that's my adjective. And parents, once again, that's my noun. However, when I get to the third item in the list, I switch the pattern to administrators, that's my noun, who are stubborn, that's my adjective. So I accidentally interrupted the adjective noun pattern. So the correct version of the sentence would actually have stubborn in front of administrators. There's another problem with this sentence, and it has to do with the idiom it's using with a not and a but. When you break a sentence up into two parts with not and but, you have to make sure that any verbs or prepositions that don't come before the not, but do come after the not, they must also be repeated after the but. For example, notice how I have the preposition from after the not, but I don't have from after but. That's wrong. You can't do that. And there are two ways to fix this problem. One, I could simply add from between but and administrators, or I could add a from before my not. If I put the from before the not, I don't have to repeat the from afterwards. In this sentence, we have another list describing the Native American society, which was based on cultivating, hunting, and trading. So all of the verb forms end in an ing, which is great. However, hunting actually has the in front of it, and neither of the other verbs do. So to make the sentence parallel, we'd either have to add the to the remaining sentences, or we could simply cross out the in front of hunting. Now the sentence is perfect. Here's another question with the not, but pattern. And like all comparisons and all lists, you have to make sure that your prepositions match. So in this case, we have a because of followed by a by. You can't do that. They have to match. We also have some awkwardness with the arise malpractice part of the sentence. So an easy fix is to change the because of into a by, and then change arise into rising. And that way we've done two things. Our prepositions, the by, they match. We've also reduced our word count. And remember, all things being equal, a shorter sentence is usually better.